The second sutra is Yogas Chit Vritti Nirodha. Now we will break it here again. Yoga Chit Vritti Nirodha. 4 words, 4 padas. You see in Sanskrit words are called pad. So here are 4 padas. The first one is yoga. Now we will discuss what yoga is. Chit, then we will discuss about chit, then we will discuss about vritti, then we will discuss about nirodha. Chit is, you can say, conscience, but there is no real exact English word of the chit. Vritti means fluctuations, modifications. Nirodha means to restrict, to stop, to restrain. Now we will understand yoga. What yoga is? He defines it here. Yoga is to stop the fluctuations of your conscience is yoga. To restrain the fluctuations of your conscience is yoga, and you can say it if you just understand it mind. You can say that to stop all the fluctuations streams on your mind which is coming in your mind all the time, just to stop it is yoga. Okay? Now we will discuss it here. Yoga is a Sanskrit word and it has come from yuj word. From this root words many words get birth, like this yoga. Even yam niyam also comes from yuj word, yuj root. So yuj, you see, yuj has 3 meanings. If you go through the Sanskrit dictionary, there are 36 meanings of yoga, but they all are not relevant for our this yoga. To slap someone is also called yoga, but here the relevant here is only this one, 3. One is to add, it is called yujari yoge, and the second one is called yuj samadho, and the third one is yuj sanyamane. Sanyamane here also means restrain. So yoga means to restrain here, and here yoga means samadhi, and here yoga means to add, to integrate. So in yoga restrain is always there, whether you add it or whether you do samadhi, restrain is always there. So we delete it. Only 2 meanings are taken because that is common in both. So now we will understand what yujari yoga and what is yuj samadho. Yujari yoga means to integrate. Here he says to integrate Atma and Paramatma is called yoga, or to integrate Shiva and Parvati or energy to the Shiva, this is called yoga in this way. Okay? So here integration is linked. To add Atma or Paramatma. But here in Yujari Yoga, you see there was a Rishi, a Yagyavalk, and he has written a book. He was very, very famous and very, you can say a very intellectual Rishi of his time and Veda time. And he has written one Upanishad also, one Brahmana Grantha also. So he was the most famous, and he was the guru of Janak also, King Janak. And he was very, very, I mean you can say very prominent of his times. So he says that Sanyogo Yog Ityuktah Jivatma Paramatmana, means Jivatma और परमात्मा इन दोनों को जोड़ देना योग है. He says this. So there are some granthas on yoga, but they are not only yoga granth. Yoga is somewhere in scattered form, it is made there. So he tells about this, that integration is yoga. And our Hatha Yoga says only this, that Atma और Paramatma का मिलन योग है. Our Hatha Yoga says this. But you see, Patanjali Yoga is called Raj Yoga. Patanjali says there is no need to integrate Atma and Paramatma. He says that we all are Paramatma. So when we all are Paramatma, then why to integrate and why to disintegrate? There is no need to integration and disintegration. He says that we all are Paramatma, and so there is no any need. And he says only Samadhi is the way to understand about your own self. Otherwise, when you understand yourself, when you get in yourself, then you are himself Paramatma. So there is no need to know or integrate from Atma to Paramatma. So here he says disintegration is yoga. Samadhi means disintegration. So just opposite of the first one, he says disintegration is yoga. So how to disintegrate? There are only two elements basically, Purush and Prakriti. It is called dualistic philosophy. All our philosophies except Advaita Vedanta and in some form of Buddhism, they are monism, otherwise all are dualistic. All philosophies except this one, they all are dualistic. So they say that there are two elements, Purusha and Prakriti. When you are linked with the Purush, then this world is made and you are in bondage. And when you disintegrate yourself from this, then you are become free. So you have to disintegrate from Prakriti. This is yoga, what Patanjali wanted to say. So what does it mean here? He says that when you stops all the goings on which is going on in your mind, all the thoughts when they are stopped, that is a state of yoga. The very cream of yoga is, if you cannot understand chitta, if you don't understand vritti, then you cannot never understand yoga. So you have to understand this chitta, then vritti and all these things, then nirodha and yoga. And now we will discuss all the definitions of yoga which is given in other scriptures also. So the first question here arises, who was the father of yoga? If Patanjali is not the father of yoga, then who is the father of yoga? You see, there are many books written on yoga after that, and before this, every scriptures in every Vedas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, all the Upanishads, and even every philosophies had got mentioned about yoga. Lord Buddha has mentioned it, and he has taken its help for his realization, and Mahavir Jain has given it. And you see, yoga is in itself yoga, Sankhya and Sankhya philosophy, yoga, you can say yoga is the daughter of Sankhya philosophy. All the theory has been got in Sankhya philosophy. Theory part is Sankhya and the practical part is yoga. So, and Mimamsa and Advait, even Advait philosophy has also mentioned yoga. In Advait philosophy, Mahasi Swami Shankaracharya, he asked yoga his first enemy. Yoga is his first enemy, but he describes about yoga and he takes the help of yoga for his own realization. And he tells everyone that you have to practice yoga. But he says also this one, that this is my first enemy, because this yoga is of dualistic nature and his is monism nature. So this is why he asked, this is my first enemy, and Maharshi Kapil is his first enemy. So now we will discuss who was the father of yoga. In all you see, like Mahabharata, like Ramayana, in even Veda also, Upanishad also, there is a word Hiranyagarbha. Almost all of them says that Hiranyagarbha was the father of yoga. But if you study all the scriptures you will not get any rishi like this named Hiranyagarbha. You will not get any rishi named Hiranyagarbha. You can give the name it to Lord Shiva, you can give it name to Lord Brahma, even Vishnu also is called Hiranyagarbha. His 1000 name, one name is this Hiranyagarbha also. But you see here Hiranyagarbha means, you see, if you call it Brahma, Brahma means creator. So you have to understand its symbolical meaning. First you have to understand Hiranyagarbha, it is made of two words, Hiranya and Garbha. Hiranya means gem, jewelry type. You can say gold, or you can say diamond. And Garbha means, you all know, womb, and here womb means anything inside. So he wanted to tell here that anyone who has a lot of jewel inside. So what do you mean by jewel? Jewel means here knowledge. So knowledge is jewel in all our philosophies, and you see, for the human, knowledge is the best jewel. So he says that a person who has a lot of knowledge in himself is called Hiranyagarbha. Or a person who has created, because Brahma means creator also. So one meaning of the Hiranyagarbha is Brahma also. So means anyone who has created this yoga is called Brahma. So here you will not get the real meaning of Hiranyagarbha. But if you go through our scriptures, Mahabharata says, Kapilo agraj iti purana vachanat Hiranyagarbho va vyapidishyate. He says Kapilo, Kapil Muni, he is saying about the Kapil Rishi. Kapilo agraj, agraj means, you say agraj means elder brother. Purana Vachanat, all the Puranas, all the scriptures says that Kapil is our agraj, means our elder brother. All of them says, and then he says Hiranyagarbho va vyapidishyate, he is Hiranyagarbha. You see, Kapil Rishi, Kapil is the Pitamaha, means this is the person whom everyone has taken something, every philosophies, every Veda, every scriptures, Indian scriptures have taken something, borrowed from him, some of the knowledge they have borrowed from him. That is why he is called Pitama. So here I wanted to say that all of them they all are agreed, 95% are agreed that Kapil is the Hiranyagarbha, means Kapil is the father of yoga. And Vyas did its commentary on about 5th AD, and then on the 7th AD there was a very good philosopher, and you can say him the master of all philosophies. His name was Vachaspati Misra. He has gone through all the scriptures, and he was one of the master person, but he was the master of all the philosophies, and he has written the book on all the philosophies. So this person has asked also Hiranyagarbha was the father of yoga, and Shankaracharya accepted very vividly that Kapil was the founder of yoga and Kapil was the real Hiranyagarbha. Shankaracharya, that person who asked that Kapil is my first enemy and the only enemy, he accepted that Kapil was the father of yoga. And you see, all of us, and in many scriptures nowadays it is written that Shiva, Lord Shiva was the father of yoga. Lord Shiva was not the father of yoga. You may say he was the father of Tantra, and from the Tantra Hatha Yoga has taken birth, and then you can say he was the father of Hatha Yoga, but he was not the father of this yoga. Even the term was given by Kapil. Kapil has not got mention, he has not got much mention in any other books, because he was before the Vedas time. So this is why we did not get much thing about him. But our one Purana, that is Bhagavad Puran, in the Bhagavad Puran, in the chapter 2nd, you get about him. And here it is told that he was born from Rishi Kardam, and his mother was Devahuti. And Devahuti was the daughter of Manu, who has given Manu Sanghita. She was the daughter of Manu, and his father was Rishi Kardam. What is written in Bhagavad Puran? It is told that both became the disciple of Kapil in their later time. They became the disciple of Kapil himself, and they get realized. So, this is what written, and you see it is also written in Bhagavad Puran that he was the 6th Vishnu's avatar. Because of his knowledge, he is told that he was the avatar of the Vishnu also. And you get, but you see in all our scriptures he got mentioned. In Veda, Rig Veda, it is written that Dasa Namekam Kapilam Samanam, means he is saying that he wanted to say that there were 10 rishis and Kapil is the highest of them. This is what Rig Veda says, and what Mahabharata says. Mahabharata very clearly said that Kapil is the father of Sankhya and Yoga philosophy both. So, here he mentioned it, and you see in Gita also says, Lord Krishna says that I am the Kapil Muni. So, he says that he was the Kapil. Lord Krishna says in the Munio, in the Munis, I am Kapil. So, he also mentioned it here, and you see in all our Upanishads, everywhere it is mentioned. And when you go in the last one, Shweta Upanishad, this is one of the best Upanishads. Here he says that Agnisha Samanam Kapilam Yastamagre, means Agni, just like this fire got's illumination, the same way light, the same way Kapil is. So, means Kapil is regarded as the highest personality in all our scriptures. So, here he says that Kapil was the father of yoga. Now, we come to the Chitta. What Chit is? You see, we get knowledge. There are two sources of our knowledge. What are those sources? That are called Bahyakaran and Antahakaran. Bahyakaran means through outer, just I am seeing you, you are seeing me. This is also a form of knowledge. So, this Bahyakaran is of 5. You can say them knowledge senses. Aankh, naak, kaan, jeev, twacha. Eyes, you get knowledge from eyes. You get knowledge from your ears through sound, word. You get knowledge through your nose, you get knowledge through your tongue, and you get knowledge through your skin. So, these are our Bahya Paksh. From outer sources we get knowledge from these 5 things. So, they are called Bahyakaran. Now, inner, you cannot get all the knowledge from only outside. So, you get some knowledge from your inside also, that is called your Antahakaran, or what I have written, conscience. So, there is no any word, I have gone through this English dictionary, there is no any exact word of this, but I got this one word from someone who has translated this Yoga Sutra. He has written conscience word, so I stole it from there, conscience. So, you see this Antahakaran, there are somewhere it is called there it has 4 parts, somewhere it is called that it has 3 parts. So, now we will discuss it. Mind, buddhi, chit, ahankar. Here in English you say it ego, but it is not ego, this is asmita. The real word is asmita in Sanskrit, but ahankar you will not get any English word of it. So, someone says that man, buddhi and ahankar, three, like yoga and our Sankhya philosophy says there are only three parts of this antakaran, but this Advaita Vedanta says that there are four parts of this, he includes chitta also. Our this chitta which has been given by Patanjali, this chitta is this antakaran, means all are taken into this one. You got it? All are taken into one, that is called antakaran. If you did not understand this, you cannot understand yoga. Never you can understand yoga if you did not understand this chit. Every activity in yoga is linked with your chit and with your vritti. So, you have to understand it very clearly. So, now we will discuss about this. What is mind, what is intellect, and what is analyzing mind, and then ego, ahankar. So, when you combine it, it becomes antakaran. And our Patanjali Grantha, this says antakaran is chit. So, now we have to understand what is mind. Mind starts from here. First, you have to use your senses, and first we did it, eyes. From eyes we see something, any sight. Suppose I am observing you, I am seeing you, then only seeing I cannot understand about you. Now I think about you. If I want to know about you, then the first thing starts thinking about you. So, when the first you start thinking only from your eyes contact, that is called your mind. Only when you just start thinking, only by observing any object or only by listening any word or smell or taste or touch. If you touch something, only by touching you start thinking, your mind start thinking, we all do this. So, when your senses got its object, and the first thing what you think, that is the role of mind, that is called mind in our yoga. And you did not stop only there, you think it and now you start analyzing about it. This is good or bad, what is this, what type is this, what do you think about this, everything is done with your prejudiced mind, but you start analyzing about it, that is called chit. But it is not chit of this, because all is included here, but Advaita Vedanta called this chit. And when you start thinking about anything, then you take a decision. Suppose this is good or bad, you take the decision that this is good, that is called intellect, that is the work of intellect. When you take a decision, this is good. So, this is the work of intellect. And then only you didn't stop here, now you think more. Then you say someone that this is good and this is bad. When you say someone that this is good and this is bad, means I am saying this, that this is good and this is bad. So, this is called ego, this is the work of ego. So, these are the four things and all these are included in chitta. These are the four things and you see they are one in fact. Just as you see one person takes many roles. Suppose this is me and I am the father of my son, I am same the son of my father, I am same the husband of my wife, I am same teacher of my student, and I am the same person is the student of my guru. Person is the same, but it is playing many roles. The same way antahkaran is the same. When it plays the role of thinking, it is mind. When it plays the role of analyzing, it is chitta, and when it takes decision, this one is intellect, and when it keeps its अपनी मुहर लगा देता है उस पे, तो this is called ego. I think you got it. So we move next. Now we will move how this chitta is made, how this antahkaran is made, because he is saying that you have to stop it. But if you does not know how it gets created, then how can you stop it? So Patanjali tells the next sutra about this.